Tom Woods, Tom Hitchcock. How are you?
Yeah, good. Thanks. Yourself?
Not too bad. Not too bad. Well, you've got a good name. I'll give you that. So we're off to a good start.
We are, both of us.
And you've got some pretty solid branding behind you. So I'm just going to go straight into that. I like the branding. I like the name. Tell us about yourself.
So Tom Woods, 36 years of age. My background was hospitality, and now I run a global recruitment agency. Well, we call it global, but we sort of service APAC and the USA, so North America. We've got an office here in Melbourne and an office in New York City.
Lovely. Okay. All right. So let's work out your journey here. Okay. So hospitality, first of all, was that in what context?
Sure. So I suppose, do you want the long-winded version or do you want the short version? What would you prefer?
The most interesting.
Okay, fantastic. So I went to school. I wasn't overly academic. I was sporty, probably, far more sporty than I am today, that's for sure. I left school and didn't really know what I wanted to do. I traveled a bit, like most young people in Australia in particular. I had a number of different jobs. I worked at Grilled, I worked at Calibre, I had a real estate job at Jealous Craig, you name it. I think I worked at 9 different businesses on Glenferrie Road in Hawthorn from the age of 16 to 25. I traveled lots, so my I guess passion was getting out of the country and seeing the world. I lived in Bali for 6 months. I speak, I haven't been back in a while, but when I'm there, I speak almost fluent Bahasa. And I traveled and I ended up in hospitality. I promoted in nightclubs for a very long time, which I loved and I enjoyed, and it's a big passion of mine. And we've got a hospitality sector here in our business, in our recruitment business these days. From promoting, I got involved with a friend of mine, who's a friend of mine still today. So what's that? I'm 36, so yes, 16 years on or something like that. I don't know, 15 years on. And he needed a venue manager. And I knew nothing of the other side of the bar. I only knew everything from the hosting side and the promoting side. And I took it on. It was a safe set of hands and ears and eyes in the venue for him. And I did a lot of learning, and I was the licensee. And I ended up working at Room 680 on Glenferrie Road in Hawthorn, Melbourne, Victoria for 4 years. And I saw it all. I mean, we could deep dive into that if you wanted to, but it's it's a past for me. But working on front doors and inside venues where you run some of the biggest trance nights in Australia, all the way through to the preppy private school nights on a Tuesday night, we had it all. My time came to an end there. I was sort of in a relationship. I was sick of the late nights. I missed a lot of family functions. I missed a lot of friends' birthdays, weddings, you name it. It was one of those times in your life where you had to do what you had to do. And unfortunately, when you're working on the other side of the bar, everyone else is on the other side enjoying themselves. So I got out of that and opened a beauty salon in Glenferrie Road, Hawthorn, with my partner at the time, which she ran for 5 years. Obviously, I would have loved to have been in there spray tan and waxing, but that wasn't for me. My side of the fence, I needed to go and find a job. So I'd never heard of recruitment before. I knew nothing of it. It's becoming more of a household, I guess, industry now that people talk about. But, when I entered the industry 10, 11 years ago, I knew nothing of it. And a friend of mine had a job, part-time job, temping through a recruitment agency. And he said, you've got to go see a friend of ours, and she might have an opportunity for you. So I went in there and they didn't have anything for me at the time. I think there was a temp offer at iSelect and that fell over. And they called me back in. And I remember I was wearing a disheveled suit. I probably was unshaven. I do remember this. I had masking tape the bottom of one of my suit shoes together because I didn't wear suit shoes all the time. Anyway, I went back in for a second interview and they offered me a job. And that's 11 years later, here we are, still in recruitment.
I love that. So our backgrounds are not too dissimilar, except I was doing it the other side of the planet. So when I was at university, I was doing loads of promoting of nightclubs. I think I had 5 nights a week at different nightclubs. And then I ended up owning a nightclub as well in Spain. And we did the same things. We had some of the big household names there, but a mix of events. It's a bit of all about variety, I guess. But it has a shelf life. It's great fun whilst it lasts, but it hits that point where this isn't sustainable. Yeah, I reckon if I didn't stop that then, I'd probably be dead now.
Definitely. And look, I'd still mix it with the best of them. We've got a young workforce here, and most of the times I'm still the last man standing. But I think if it was as regular as it was back then, I definitely wouldn't be here today.
Never off duty. I do exactly the same thing. And you know what? When I go to the bars or clubs, I start watching and see what's going on, and it just clicks straight back in again, and that's it. We kick on, and yeah, all the young ones can't keep up.
Well, that's what we like to think anyway, right?
yeah. Well, as far as I recall, anyway. But it does. The nice thing about it does set you up, so you understand business, you can understand people, you can understand what makes people go to places, how they interact and what have you. So it's actually quite handy. But the other thing as well, which you said there, which I've interviewed a few other agency recruiters as well, which is a little bit of a no-no because most recruiters don't talk to each other. We don't like each other. But what's interesting, I've asked them, is no one goes out saying, right, you know what, I'm going to be a recruiter. It may start to do that now, but it's not on someone's career agenda. Recruitment always finds you.
Yeah.
And there's you with your masking tape and a dodgy suit. Have you still got that suit?
Oh, mate, it wouldn't fit me now, but it'll be somewhere in the cupboard, that's for sure.
Charity shop wouldn't take it, yeah?
Yeah, not a chance.
But yeah, so recruitment finds you,
Yeah.
So what does your business focus on?
Yeah, so I mean, as you said, recruitment finds you, and I think my background is people, and I love people, and it's been through all of my jobs, right? Like if we just take it back before I answer that direct question, through all of my jobs, it has always been people facing. It has always been something to do with people. I mean, could I have been a real estate agent? Perhaps, but was the timing right? Probably not. Like at 20 years of age, working in Hawthorne, Melbourne, trying to list $4-5 million homes in a shonky suit, driving a Ford Falcon, it just wasn't going to happen, right? So, could retail have been it for me? Probably in the younger years, it wasn't probably a career, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed everything I did. The same with hospitality, and be that working in QSR restaurants or be that in nightclubs. And I think, the recruitment that we do now as a business is probably a testament to what my background was, right? So we've got the hospitality division. We've got business services, which is sales, support, and service, so customer service, sales, account management, business development. It encompasses administration and whatnot. But that was a big part of my life, and I have a passion for that. And then finance and IT sort of bolts onto that, but the finance and IT department, we've got some really good recruiters in there that know what they're doing. They've been doing it for a long time, and they wanted to come to us, and that's why we established that side of things. My family's always been in property and construction, so we've got a property and construction department. My sister actually runs the property division, and my best mate runs the construction division. So there's a big family element to it, but I think all in all, why are we in those sectors? It is probably because of the past and the things that attract me, or I'm attracted to, the things that, I probably think we can spot good talent in. And if the buck needs to stop at me, we've got that final set of eyes that can oversee those certain roles and areas. It's a different business here to what it is in the USA. Our USA business encompasses business services, so professional services, which is legal, finance, marketing, sales, account management, customer service, and whatnot. But we bolt on CPG and manufacturing there because, again, something I'm interested in. I'm a consumer. I love to consume, and America's huge for that, right? So we've got that, and then we'll look to take some of the other areas of our business there in time.
So it's fair to say right at the beginning of your career, when you didn't leave that one street in Hawthorne, you had an element of scattergunning, which is perfectly fine. There's lots of people that are at that stage in their career and they don't know what they want to do, but they also need to keep a little bit of get some beer tokens in their pocket. Would you advise to people at that stage of their career to do the same thing that you did?
Yeah, it's interesting too, right? When you do these sorts of things, when you sit down and you have a conversation and who are we marketing this toward? What are we trying to get out of this conversation for other people? Obviously Tom and Tom sitting here having a chat, getting to know one another, but the people listening in, what are we trying to speak to them about? And I think there's two sides to it, right? There's the journey people find interesting, your friends, family, your clients, prospective clients, other recruiters looking to do it themselves. And we can push down that path through this conversation. But when you look at it from a candidate perspective, and that's a broader audience, and there's far more people that could listen to something like this that could get benefit out of it. And I think that I would say to those people listening in is that, get out there and try it all. There's no rush. Like, I'm 36. We've got a team of 40, 45 staff. We've got 2 offices. We've got 4 businesses under the same roof. But it's taken 7 years to build that. But I couldn't have built this without the 10 years before that in other industries and understanding what I like and what I'm good at and what I enjoy and, the type of people I want to work with and so on and so forth. And having that understanding actually makes you a really good recruiter, because really good recruiters can step in and fill any role, right? It's a process-driven professional services environment. Yeah, there's those specialist recruiters that have a black book of candidates, but great generalist recruiters survive the tale as old as time and the testament of time, because they have the ability to pivot. I hate using that word, but they do. They have the ability to, when one market crashes, move into another sector. They also understand so many different industries. If you've worked in different things in the past, to be able to have those conversations with people and go, tell me a bit more about that. I used to work at Coles, or, I worked at Grilled and you worked at Nando's, and I understand the training at McDonald's is better than this QSR and whatever it may be. And that's what opens other candidates up to get them flowing. So, as a candidate looking to get into recruitment, for sure, get out there and do as much as possible. And I think for just general candidacy as a whole, I think experience is great, but hold your 10 years. Don't go 6 months here, 6 months there and whatnot, because I don't think that will look so favorable on paper.
You're quite right. There's quite a bit to unpack there, because on to your last point, obviously the people look at a CV as a risk assessment. It's a credit check, and you jump in too much, too short of space, no promotions, too big gaps, then you become high risk and less desirable. So you need to be mindful of that for your own investment in your career, I guess. But I liked your point, what you talked about with recruiters as well, because I've been saying this for a long time, and it's like yourself, it's not against specialist recruiters, but a true recruiter can and should be able to look at any business and understand its DNA and how different it is. So let's say you are a specialist recruiter and you're in, I don't know, penetration testing, so a nice super specialism. Okay, what can happen is you can get complacent, you get lazy. You've got, as you said, you got your black book of candidates, and it's same. But the issue is it's not, because each of those companies is completely different culture, different benefits, different location, different hiring managers, and you desensitize yourself to that if you're not careful. But when you're generalist, you're open to it, because if you're recruiting for a role, a job title you've barely heard of, you're hanging on every word, because I don't know what I'm doing and I want to do the best job possible, which means we're genuinely listening to the client as well, making the assumptions. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. I agree. I think being able to have a consultative approach to recruitment is super important. And I think that's what you're saying, right? If you only know one thing, it's very difficult to add value to your client in other areas. And, Australia is a relationship-based recruitment market, right? So it's so important to be able to add value. And everyone says this, right? Greg Savage, you've got all of these industry leaders and thought leaders talk about it. But what does that actually mean? And the reality of it is you've got to bring your expertise to the party, right? If you're paying a lawyer $500 an hour, right? they will tell you if you disagree with their charge rates, they will just tell you that you're not paying for the work that's done then, you're paying for the training and the experience and the past that took them to get to that level to be able to charge what they can. Yeah, sure, I think some lawyers probably overcharge, but that's the reality of doing business at times. But for a recruiter to be able to fall back on your own life experiences, because that's all we have as recruiters is life experience, and say, hey, I've worked with this company and that company, and I've worked in this area and that area. And I think that, perhaps if we position it that way and we position it this way and at that time, and we look at the market at this period, you're going to add value. And whether they just take that advice and run with it themselves, or whether they give you the briefing and away you go, you've done something good for somebody and for a client, and you can't do that if you only know one thing. And I often find those conversations, it's like you said at the start, Tom, when we caught up before we started filming this, is there anything off limits? No, there's not. And I think that's because you don't know where a conversation is going to go. And it's the same with taking a brief. Just because a client thinks that that's what they want, it doesn't necessarily mean that's where they're going to end up. How many times through contingent permanent recruitment do you take a brief and then 4 times have you changed the salary and you've changed the this and the that and the location, now it's flexible and all that kind of stuff. If you just at the start spend that time relying on your experience and having the confidence to have those conversations, it'll take you miles in recruitment, it'll take you forward and much further than your competitors that are trying to stay siloed and pigeonholed in one area.
And that's absolutely true. And I do think a lot of companies, unfortunately, do get it wrong, especially at the larger companies where they rely a lot on their in-house team to, like, here's a position description. And, government's terrible for it because they use the same format for all of them with a couple of minor tweaks, but the jobs are completely different, But we'll put government to one side. We can't change that one. but companies we can, and there's a rigidity to it. And you go in and you could send an 8 or 9, maybe even a 10 out of 10 candidate which ticks all those boxes, and they either don't get an interview or they fail the interview, and that feedback you get is outside of that position description, and you kind of rue in that situation. Well, why didn't I know this before? Why didn't I ask those correct questions? Why didn't I flesh this out? And then there's always the bit which is and off the record.
Yeah. The areas we hire in outside of finance and legal, right, where you're hiring in an area where you've got to have an experience and expertise, and you've got to have, a degree and all that kind of stuff. When you're looking in the sales, customer service, and administration realm, if you boil it down, right, as a business owner myself, what are you looking to hire? What are clients often looking to hire? And so often we're so robotic, and we go, $65,000. CBD location and all this kind of stuff. But the reality is they're looking for 4 things: attitude, aptitude, motivation, determination, right? You string those 4 things together with a bit of experience, you've got the perfect candidate. Because at the end of the day, I can tell you now, the way the world's going with technology, the platforms that we have, just how far further forward we are in as generations at the moment than our predecessors, is that people have the foundations through schooling and whatnot to hit the ground running. And if they have the right attitude, they're going to show up. If they have the right motivations, they're going to make it work because they want to make money. If they're driven and all this kind of stuff, they're going to get to where they want to be. And I think that that's a much easier employee to work with than somebody who just has a skill set but is constantly disgruntled at the work that they're doing.
And that's probably how you got hired with your dodgy suit. Is they found those 4 things. You brought nothing else to the table. At least you brought those 4 things. But it's interesting. It's interesting you say that point, because we talk about transferable skills. A lot of that's down to mentality, aptitude, cognitive competencies, if you like, circumstances where I really want to learn more than the other people. When I'm 46, so I'm 10 years on you. Okay, so you got this coming, by the way.
Oh, mate, that's why there's a bit more hair at the front. It kind of shadows what's happening at the back.
But when I was young, back in UK, those 4 attributes were very common. If anything, it was the one person in the group stood out for not having it. Okay, so it's hard to hire on that basis because it is a norm. Nowadays, I'm finding it less so. I'm finding it reversed. So most people it's more common to have an entitled mentality. I want this, and this. Give me a job. Not about what I can do for you. Just give me a job because I need money. And they shake the employer upside down, see what they can get out of them, and do that for 6 months until they get a better offer. So there's a sense of entitlement out there, which is rising and more common. Okay, and then the people with those 4 attributes, which you quite nicely pointed out, they're a rarer commodity, and you can hire on that premise. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Tom. I think my workforce experience as a junior, all I knew was that I had to show up, and if I was 5 minutes late, I was in trouble. Whether that was the reality of the situation or whether that was in my own head, I just knew that I was late, right? And I think a lot of my friends at that time, and when we were working through our younger casual jobs, we all thought the same way. And as you said, I think that was the case probably then 15 years ago, that there was those attitude, aptitude, motivation, determination, care factor toward it. Has it changed? Yeah, definitely. Do I think it's the fault of the generation? No, I think COVID really stuffed up our working environment and our understanding. Do I think it's filtered into all generations? For sure. I mean, I know heaps of people my age, older and whatnot, that have ridden off the back of COVID and are still operating in a way that suits them better than it perhaps suits the broader business that they work for and whatnot. Is it a negative? Can be. Is it a positive? Can be. It's all situational as well. And how do you change that? I think it's changing. I think it's already starting to creep back. People are starting to go, righto, it is a competitive landscape. There aren't as many jobs around as what I first thought in the area that I want to get into. I think people are realizing the cost of living is expensive. So, the risk is gone. The government's not supporting you anymore. Or, I do need to make sure I hold down my job. And those subconscious things start to creep back in, and will slowly turn us back around to where we need to be from a candidacy perspective, and people coming to the party with attitude, aptitude, motivation, determination. Now, there'll be people watch this and listen to this for sure, right? I put a post up the other day on LinkedIn, and somebody shared it, and they had an opposing view and opinion on mine. That happens, right? I totally agree. Some people are like, you're wrong. That's not how it's seen. I think that there's the other side too. I think businesses need to be really clear, need to have, in the beginning, messaging that is like why, the why is really important. And then they need to come to the party with the 4 things that they need to provide to their candidates and their staff. And that's culture, that's career progression, that's job satisfaction, that's remuneration, right? What do you go to work for? You spend more time at work than you do anything else, the majority of people. You want to enjoy it. How long can you enjoy doing the same thing for? A while, some people more than others. So there needs to be career progression. You need to have some form of pathway for people, right? And then, you get job satisfaction because things are changing, and there's other areas, like we said before. If you come into a recruitment agency, and I can only talk as a recruitment agency owner because it's outside of a beauty salon, it's the only business that I've owned. You've got to have variety. I've got finance recruiters that go, God, I'd love to try just do something different. We give them a sales role or give them a production role, and that gives them job satisfaction. And obviously winning because they're salespeople. And then guess what happens? All of that, the stars collide: attitude, aptitude, motivation, determination. We come to the party with career progression, job satisfaction, and culture. And then what happens? Remuneration. Everyone's remunerated. And that's what business is for. It's how we turn the economy, it's how we turn our lives, it's how we get ahead, and so on and so forth. So, yeah, I think there's I'm giving you long-winded answers, but I think there is yes, there has been a change, but I think that change is coming back. And I think that is because businesses are starting to realize as well that it's partly their responsibility to come to the party with some other things that are going to drive people to come with the right attitudes, aptitudes, motivations, and determinations.
Yeah, I like that. The problem is with your long-winded answer, it gives me too many questions and I start forgetting my early questions.
Mate, I just dribble on and forget where I am halfway through. So I try and tie it back, and the whole middle section has nothing to do with the question.
That's it. But no, it's all good. I agree with you that it's no one's fault. It's just the way that the things have happened. COVID really unearthed a whole different work relationship, if you like. I do think there are people take advantage of it, so there is negatives, and I also think there is positives. So there is pros and cons to look at it. I think in the mindset piece, though, I do lean more towards the negative, and the only reason I say that is because having an entitled point of view isn't self-serving. It sets you up for disappointment. Yeah. If I think I should have this, I should have that, I should have that for granted, that's a bad state of being, because you're going to be pissed off most of the time. Yeah, whereas if you're living for the moment, you don't take stuff for granted, and everything has an upside, then you're living a far more enriched life. So it comes into personal.
I couldn't agree more, Tom. I think you hit the nail on the head there. Like, to expect is the wrong way to go about it. Like, because as you said, and it's not from a me or from a you or from any other business owner or leader or manager or whatever, you're just going to let yourself down. Because, I have this saying, and it comes from my parents, and, I'm sure Dad heard it somewhere, and he just chirped it at me one day, because I was probably not doing what I was supposed to be doing. But, the harder you work, the luckier you get. And, there is luck in the world for sure. I think some people get luckier than others, but that's the world. Like, the world is not fair, unfortunately. Like, that's just, people are dealt different hands, Does God have a say in when your time's up? I don't know, but it's the same as how you attack your day to day, right? You've got to take it on yourself to go, I can't expect that person or this person or whatever it is to give to you. You've almost got to go out there and get it for yourself, because you also get a lot more satisfaction out of doing so.
And you know what? That's an attitude and mindset which I find so often with seasoned recruiters. Okay, because they've seen everything, warts and all of the world of work, every eventuality, champagne and razor blades, no 2 days the same, blah blah blah, and also business owners. Okay, because we have to own every single thing that we do. That you can't be 99% in; it's 100% or nothing. And they all share that view because it's lived experience.
Yeah. And it's interesting. It's been an interesting theme for us through this conversation, right? It's just about lived experience. And what is that? Like, you've got to get out there and you've got to do it and not expect it, and you've got to live it, and you've got to create it, and you've got to get everything that you want. Like, I said before, businesses offering job satisfaction and those sorts of things, for sure. But like, that doesn't mean that you can't create your own job satisfaction, right? Like, everyone has those days that are, like you said, recruitment, my God, like, don't we see it all? Like, the ups, the downs, the highs, the lows, the champagnes, the razor blades, the yes, the no's, the ugliness behind the scenes, and whatever it may be. Like, it is tough, but you can always find fun and enjoyment in what you do. What are we setting out to really achieve, right? Yeah, some people set out because they want to make billions of dollars, for sure. Great, that's the concept. But like, you want to have fun while doing it. There's no point if you go 40, 50, 60 years and not enjoying it. I won't talk about it all, but there's stuff that happens that you can make fun in your recruitment journey. Someone gives you a foul call, and get off the phone, have a laugh about it with someone else in the office, whatever it may be. But there's ways to find that job satisfaction yourself rather than letting everything just impact you negatively.
Love it. Okay, but listen, we've gone a little bit over time, but I do have 3 questions for you before we go. Sure. Question number 1. If you could give advice to candidates on just one thing they could change to improve their circumstances, what would that change be?
I still think pick up the phone and call a recruitment agency or call the hirer. Don't hassle them. Don't call them 10 times. Pick up the phone and put in a call. Not to the office. Find the contact number of the consultant, not an email, not a message. Find the number of the consultant and try and give them a call.
Love it. Okay. Question number 2. What would you say to clients that are engaging with recruitment agencies, the one thing they could change to better the results for them?
I'd be open to listening to what the consultant has to say at the very beginning. Don't engage a consultant that you haven't run your searches on, and knowing that the advice that they're giving you is going to be sound, and take that on board and put them through their paces in the early stages. Okay, here's our position description. Come back to us with what you think might be a better example or some additional points for it. And can you provide some salary insights? I think that's probably the key at the moment is listening to the market, but also listening to the recruiters and the professionals, like you would your lawyer, your doctor, your accountant, and so on.
Love it. And the third and final question, how should people contact you if they like what you're talking about and want more information?
Sure. Well, I can't go against my own words, right? So my number is 0401 064 754. Alternatively, you can catch me on my email, tom@woodsco.com.au.
Fantastic. Maybe when this gets published, stick it in the comments at the bottom. That would probably be a good thing to do. And hopefully you get loads of business and help lots of people.
Awesome. Thanks, Tom. I appreciate having me on.
You're more than welcome. Thank you. Thank you for watching this episode. I hope that you did enjoy it, had lots of takeaways from it. As before, please subscribe below so you can keep on top of any new releases we have. And also, if you would like to have your story told, just reach out with me and I'd love to give you that platform. My best email address is tom@purplepatchconsulting.com. Thank you.